Follow your heart, but take your brain with you. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is the effects of brain drain. You can also join in the conversation. The number to send your WhatsApp messages is 076 656 5353. The number once again 076 656 5353. Joining us this evening on the show are Dr. Thennuwan Wickramasinghe, a General Committee member of the Government Medical Officers Association. What are your thoughts, Dr. Thennuwan?
Hi Shamil, good evening and thank you for inviting GFI for this valuable discussion. First of all, starting, the health is one of the most identical thing in Sri Lanka. If you look at internationally, the health indicators are in par with the European countries and the developed countries. That is one main aspect that we are high above there. So one main reason for these high health indicators is the human resource that we are having in the country. Despite having all these political problems and the 30 years or long war and all, we could retain doctors in Sri Lanka, not only in Sri Lanka but in the government sector also. So we were able to provide same healthcare facility that was available in Colombo in all the peripheral settings. That is for the last many years, although there was this war and all. But unfortunately what has happened is, one more thing that I want to tell is that to maintain the same health indicators as Sri Lanka, the United States is spending about 11,700 USD per capita health budget. And Australia is spending about 5,900 USD. But Sri Lanka is maintaining the same health indicators, almost equal same indicators, by spending only 151 USDs per health budget. So that means we are having a good human resource that we have been equitably distributed throughout the country, and they are providing the same service as capital. So unfortunately what has happened is, due to multifactorial reasons that has emerged during last few maybe months and years, number of skilled professionals has gone abroad. So the loss of doctors to other countries, especially to the European countries and the Middle East, has come to a place that our healthcare system is about to be collapsed.
Dr. Thennuwan, I just want to also direct your attention towards the decision that was reached by the Ministry of Health today, stating that they will refrain from approving leave for doctors in areas with a limited number of specialists to travel overseas. How do you view this statement from the Ministry of Health?
Shamil, it is like for a problem there are solutions in different levels. If you take the last step at first, the things will not get resolved. And the thing that I want to tell you is that, you told few numbers in the previous discussion, there are about 300 specialists that have already left the country, not only 125. And up to today, about 900 doctors has left the country. So even the ministry is trying to keep them by force, by applying laws. What they can do maximally, the maximum thing that they can do is they can remove them from the ministry service. But will that have an impact on this problem? The number of people who leave the country, they are going for a huge salary.
Will the medical council license be revoked as well?
If you know the rules, if you know the governing body, the medical ordinance is the governing structure for the medical council. So even though people left the country even without informing the government, even they go on vacation of post, there is no provision that medical council registration can be waived.
All right. So I want to get a little bit of clarity on this, Dr. Thennuwan. Let's talk about higher salaries. Now you spoke about that a couple of seconds ago. Let's get some clarity on that. How much would a doctor in the Sri Lankan health care service, in the government sector, earn a month?
There are three main categories in health sector of Sri Lanka. There are medical officers, there are specialists, there are administrative grade medical officers. All three categories are working in part. So if you talk about the grade medical officers who are working throughout the country, they are usual. There are three grades: preliminary grade, grade 2 and grade 1. So if you take average, it's about take home basic salary is about 58,000. 58,000 rupees, the basic salary.
So with allowances and
so
all that,
if you tally all the allowances, it will come to around 200,000 maximum.
Right. How much would a doctor qualified in Sri Lanka, a medical officer, earn overseas?
If you compare with the European countries, there are many attractive countries like Australia, Canada, US, UK, and also now people are migrating to the Middle East. So if you roughly talk about the UK, they are paying about 3 million per month for a medical
3 million
visa.
a month.
Yeah, that the total take-home salary before taxes. So they earn about 3 million per month. So if you compare the 200,000 here and the 3 million there, what we have to think is what are the factors that people will be retaining here? Is there anything that people should stay here? There may be family commitments and other things that they want to, that they have reasons to stay here.
Right.
But even though there are reasons, this huge discrepancy between salaries and the working environment that they have to work, the conducive environment that you are having overseas, and the facilities that you are getting there, and the quality of life that you and your family will get there, it is a huge problem.
Right. Professionals leaving in Sri Lanka is not due to salary. The huge difference in salary in Sri Lanka and other countries has been in existence inherently. What is the reason behind people actually leaving the country?
Actually, the reason for this leaving is multifactorial. As I told you earlier, salary is one factor. If you talk about the financial aspect, salary, tax, and the allowances that are given for transportation is mainly a factor. They are the main reasons. But apart from this salary, there are some other factors like living conditions and working environment. So if you look at the quarters and the accommodation that are given for doctors in peripheries, if you go and see them, you will be surprised how these people are working in such an accommodation, how they go and stay there, how they keep their families there. So that is one main reason. And if you talk about the schooling of these doctors, some doctors, the family lies in Colombo and they are working in Trincomalee or Anuradhapura. And they are coming back home every weekend. So they can't take their family to Anuradhapura because they don't have a proper school for their children.
Right.
But even if people are returning from overseas after foreign training, after 1 year or 2 years foreign training time, once they come back to Sri Lanka, there is no proper schooling system for the doctors. So they have to rely on the private sector schools or international schools or somewhere else. So this is one factor that government can do very quickly.
So I'm getting a lot of questions, Dr. Thinuwan. It's all directed at you, unfortunately, at the moment. Is it fair for a doctor who got university admission on district quota or backward area quota to let down the country and leave? They deprive the chance of a merit student.
The thing is, Shamil, that once a doctor is selected to a government medical college and they do their work for 6-7 years there, and once they pass out from the government medical college, they get into an internship period where they work for 365 days, 4 hours per day, every day like on calls. And whatever the money that has been spent on him will be recovered in that period because they have been paid only 68 rupees per day for that 1 year internship period. And the people are talking about the amount of money that doctor is invested on a doctor, but that same money was invested on everyone in the community. But the doctors are the people who have gained the maximum results of them. They are the one who has taken the maximum from that money that he invested and have become the specialist or a doctor and serving in this country. So if someone is telling that the merit of the chance of another person has been gone away because of this one, the responsibility should lie with the government.
And Dr. Thinuwan, I just want to clarify this fact. Since I come from a family of doctors, there is this saying that doctors here enjoy not exactly financial but other privileges, being in Sri Lanka, being in a doctor in terms of status and other opportunities. So it is harder for them when they travel abroad, although they get a better pay, they have to work twice as hard. Is this true? Is this an actual fact? What are your opinions?
Truly speaking, this is not an actual fact. So when you are in a society like in Sri Lanka, when you go to some place or when you are going to do some work from some place, being a doctor may give you a privilege. But when you talk about your families, when you're talking about the future of your kids, and when you're talking about the working environment and how you feel when you are working there, and the gratitude, the dignity that you are having in the service is such difference. But I have been in UK for about 2 months, about 6 months back. I just saw the working environment there. It was severely, there are severe disparity between Sri Lanka and India.
So I want to ask you a question, Dr. Thinuwan. Now, you've come on this show a couple of times. I've had you we've discussed about many issues plaguing the health sector in Sri Lanka, and also the crises that has arisen because of that. What is keeping you in Sri Lanka?
There are many factors. If I tell you the small amount of numbers to give you a good insight, there are about 5,000 doctors at the moment who has gained foreign qualifications and foreign license and who are still waiting in country. About 5,000. That is about 1/4 of the total doctors community in Sri Lanka.
So those who have not passed the AT16 exam?
No. They have gained qualification from Sri Lanka. They have registered in the SLMC, and apart from that, they have got qualification from abroad also.
If they want, they could leave.
They could leave at any moment. They have taken the PLAB exam, they have taken the AMC exam, they have done the prometric exam. There are 5,000 in number.
5,000?
5,000. So peer data says that is 5,000. So at any moment they can leave. So they may be staying for some family commitment, they may be looking after their parents, they may be waiting for their house to be sold out, something like that. But what will happen is, if this migration, this loss of doctors continue for another 3 months, the workload that comes to the people who are remaining here, they will get exhausted.
Right. So I want to ask all four of you a generic question as to what are the causes of brain drain in any country?
Yeah, what I feel is the main reason for migration is the uncertainty. As explained by the other members of the panel, the uncertainty that prevails in the country. You know that even if someone have money, if there is no eggs to buy at the shops, there is a problem about feeding their kids. And if petrol is not available in the shed, although you have money in the bank account, the people are having problem. So this uncertainty that prevails in the last few months, maybe years, that is the main reason that people are migrating.
So you're saying the sudden surge in migration is because of
uncertainty. Yeah, this uncertainty is in different aspects,
right,
like economic, like social, maybe professional, maybe future of their kids,
okay,
all these things. But the main reason is the uncertainty, because you know that doctors were paid the same amount earlier also, but they didn't go abroad like this.
Right. Let's talk about the taxation, Dr. Thanuwan. I must tell you, I must admit, I too consult a particular doctor at a private hospital in Colombo, and this doctor in question takes a consultancy fee in cash up to the tune of 7,500 rupees or 10,000 rupees per session. So this is not taxable. Don't you agree that there are certain section of doctors who are being not taxed and they are reaping the benefit in Sri Lanka, buying houses, buying cars, and not declaring their taxes? If you go to an outside country, these consultants, which probably would be 1/4 of the complete number of consultants in Sri Lanka, which is around 2,900 or so, they wouldn't be able to play this game.
So when you look at a problem, Shamil, you have to look the whole picture. So if you look at the 2,799 cadre in Sri Lanka, how many consultants? 2,900. In position is 2,148. That is the total cadre. Out of that, 2,148 is the number that in position. Out of that, 272 have already migrated. And what I am talking is, how many of these doctors, the fraction, the percentage of the doctors who collect that amount of money, and how many are just working in peripheries just for the government salary of 280,000. And if you think about only that doctor who charged the 7,500, 10,000 from a person per session, if you focus on that doctor and look at the solution of this problem, that is not going to work. So we have to look at the whole picture.
But let's talk about professionals.
Yeah, what I'm telling. Yeah.
Let's leave the doctors aside. How many lawyers are there?
That's what I'm going to tell. The doctors are the people who are doing this thing in the minimum level. So if you look at the other professions, they don't issue even a receipt. They don't issue any acknowledgement of their payment. If you know as an example, if you know the legal fees of certain renowned lawyers in the country, you know that they don't issue any receipt. They are not taxed at all. But
But Dr. Tenwan, the GMO is the beacon of hope of all professionals, no?
that's true.
You all have how much
So-
of things you all have done.
So if-
when there was fertilizer issues, one of your GMO past presidents said,
There is very,
we have
very, very
to-
common topic of
common
fertilizer.
topic, fertilizer
That
topic,
is-
but
that is third
we
time-
have to
third
talk
time
about
I'm having this problem.
program, and we used to do all 3 times we've spoken about this.
So we-
so you all are the beacon of hope for all the professionals in Sri Lanka, no?
So if you talk
So
about
don't
this,
just isolate the lawyers alone
no,
and
no,
then
no, I'm
say
not, I'm not
don't
isolating
do cherry
anyone.
picking.
I'm not
Dr. Tenwan.
isolating anyone. I'm just telling is that if any professional is doing something
It's
that is
wrong.
out of the law, that is wrong. But the responsibility should lie with the government and the IRD who is collecting taxes. They should have ways to collect the taxes. If someone is telling this one is charging 10,000 rupees and he is evading taxation, the problem is not with that person only.
It's with the government.
It is with the government and the authority that collects the taxes. And he was talking about this fertilizer issue time to time and few times now. So if you are keep talking about this issue every time we meet again, so I have to tell you the same answer.
We will talk about this topic until eternity.
That's true. I am happy.
What Sri Lanka went through the last 2 years, one of the reasons is Dr. Tenwan, this fertilizer
So
crisis.
it is not. It is
Now
not a
where are
problem
these
with-
heroes? Tell me, will you?
it
Now
is-
tell me,
it
where are
is
these
not a
heroes?
problem
Nowhere.
with GMO. Why people?
He will
why-
also migrate.
No, he is not going to migrate.
Sure.
So why the government?
Probably he is among that 1/4.
Which 1/4?
1/4 who are the minority, the niche, who gets evaded by tax.
No. You can find out because you are the one who told about 7,000, 5,000 and 10,000 thing.
I said something that happened to me. I said something that happened to
that
me.
place and find out how much he is charging, whether he's taxed
On
or
that
not.
point,
My next question to you is going to be, what are the consequences of brain drain for a country like Sri Lanka right now at this very crucial juncture? Let's start off with Dr. Tenwan.
Yeah, I think that we have 3 main issues concerning the health sector. One is that we are losing doctors to other countries, so the peripheral setting of the Sri Lankan healthcare system is getting collapsed because when the people are leaving from the country, maybe a consultant, when that specialty is not available in Colombo, what will happen is people will get transferred from periphery to Colombo. So ultimately the peripheral setting will be, peripheral rural community will be get affected. On the other hand, what will happen is so that the Hambantota anesthetist incident, when the Hambantota anesthetist left the country without informing this procedure, someone else had to cover up that place. So maybe the Tangala anesthetist has to cover up now Hambantota and Tangala both. So that same person is getting exhausted day by day.
Dr.
So that
Tenwan, just to clarify now,
Yeah.
is it true that the emergency services sector of the health industry is seriously suffering because of the brain drain issue?
Yeah, that is what I'm going to tell. There were 30 emergency physicians recently we trained, and we started emergency treatment units throughout the country from these 30 emergency physicians. Out of these 30 physicians, emergency physicians, the 24 has already gone now. So we had to shut down those emergency treatment units in peripheral settings. Only 6 are left. I will tell you another figure that our vice president, the president of the College of Pulmonologists, recently revealed that he got an email from a foreign country demanding 30 Sri Lankan pulmonary physicians, chest physicians. They are specifically requesting Sri Lankan doctors. That is due to the high medical education and good standard of practice that they are maintaining here. So that is the demand that they are having here. So number 3 factor is the people who are migrating from Sri Lanka are the doctors who are training medical students. The professorial units are the ones that they are teaching the students. So when these lecturers are leaving the country, the medical doctor consultants, the people who are training the doctors, so medical education will be in a problem in coming years. So who is there to teach the doctors? Some people are talking about increasing the production. So there will be any solution for this problem until they make a pause.
Right. So, what do we do to address these challenges that have caused brain drain? What is the way forward?
Yeah, when thinking about this problem, some people think that we can increase the production of skilled professions and overcome this problem. But as far as I am thinking about, we have to make a pause to this drain. Otherwise, we can't. Maybe we can't get back the people who have already left. But at least we have to think about the people who are about to leave. So we have to keep them at least here. We have to try to retain them as much as possible. So one aspect here is we have to think about strengthening them financially. I'm talking about the medical profession. So we have to think about allowing and paying them a market value salary. That
What is your number when you say market based salary? What is the number that the GMO has in mind?
So we have foreseen this problem, and we have given set of proposals even maybe 2-3 months back, telling that if you don't provide a conducive environment for the doctors to stay here, this problem will.
Now, how much? Tell us.
So what we have done is we have done a survey comparing the values that we have been paid, the value that have been paid by the foreign countries, and the value that is paid by the private sector in Sri Lanka. So when we compare about all these things, the number that comes is at least a grade medical officer should be paid a salary of about 7.5 million. Sorry, 750,000. And a consultant should be paid at least twice of that, if you want to keep them retained in the
But this 750,000 is taxable.
Yes, it is taxable. After taxation, you know how much will come as the take-home salary. So 750,000 and double of that to a consultant. You know that the strain that his consultant is going through. Talk about the surgeon, talk about the VOG, talk about the oncologist, how much their personal life has been affected.
Right.
So number two is that we have to make that tax policy should be a professional friendly tax policy. You know that the tax policy that having in Sri Lanka is not professional friendly one. They are being taxed as a businessman. So it is the people are not going to, and people are not getting benefit of these taxes. If you talk about the European countries, they are getting, although they have been taxed about 50%, they are getting the benefit out of that. Number three is that we have to provide doctors a conducive working environment. That we have to provide them a proper accommodation. And we have to provide them, their children should be allowed to go to a good school. The schooling of a children is, education is one prime concern of anyone in this country. And number three is that we have to think about the transportation of the doctors. So sometimes the doctor's family is here, and as I told you, the doctor is working in Jaffna. They have to come back home and go to the working place every weekend. So do you think by 250,000 to 80,000 that they can even afford for their transport, the petrol and the vehicle and the driver and all? On the third part, we have to make a very convincing environment within the Ministry of Health for where we doctors, we have to make a restructure in certain branch of the ministry so doctors can work in a good faith there.
Dr. Thenuwan, just before, I feel like I need to pose this question to you now. We spoke about especially anesthetists and doctors in the emergency service leaving the country. So right now there's a very critical problem of fewer specialists remaining in the country. So do you think, in terms of GMOA and you personally, build in a framework just as a temporary solution to keep them, because if they go, we have no one else to fill that position? Do you think it's a fair thing to do by the government and the Ministry of Health?
Let me tell you that if you allow them to live in a proper way, they will go and come back at least.
Oh, okay.
So if you allow them to go on a leave, maybe 3 months, 6 months, whatever the time period they request, they have a bond to come back. But if you are going to restrain, if you are going to put rules and keep them, they will go and they will never come back. So because even there is a bond or something to be paid.
It's not practical at all to.
It's not practical to keep them by force. So what we have to do is we have to make a conducive environment for them to stay, and if they want to go and come back.
Right. So I want to close today's discussion on a positive note, rather than being pessimistic about Sri Lanka. Let's try and look at what are the good sides, what is the bright side. There definitely is a light end of this tunnel. And how do we look at it? Is it a multifaceted approach involving reforms in education and job creation? Is that the way out for Sri Lanka? What would be your message to the youth in Sri Lanka? Dr. Thenuwan Wickramasinghe.
Yeah, I would like to highlight in 3 aspects. Best thing that happened to us with this problem is that we found out that where we are. That we found out that how much underpaid we are, how much under facilities that we have been offered. And number 2 is we found out that how much demand we have internationally. That is due to the quality education we have, maybe the free education and the skilled professions that we are having, and the best medical practice, the regulations that is having in Sri Lanka, all those things contribute. So we found out that there is a big demand for our skills. Number 3 is we found out that there are 5,000 people who have the qualifications to go abroad and practice but still stays in this country. That is the brightest thing that I can tell now. So we have to make ways to keep them retained. Maybe by making environment change, maybe by making the salary that is comfortable for them, and making their hopes to become reality, whatever the way. So government has to take, authorities has to take stern actions immediately. If they wait for another week, another set of people will be leaving the country. 600 doctors who are on training at the moment in foreign countries. And in the coming year, there are another 600 to be leave. So we don't know how much of them will come back. So now I heard that the ministry is telling 125 doctors who are due to return has already not come back. So we have to make ways to make things happen so the people who are leaving the country to come back after their due period. And if we are trying to restrain them by putting laws, they will just leave the country without coming back. The other thing is that we have to think about the ways to keep these people who are about to leave. So otherwise what will happen is the remaining system will get collapsed, ultimately the peripheral community will be affected, and consequence will come back to the center also, because when the same consultant has to work in few places, the care that he can give will be reduced. And number 3 is that when there is no people to teach people, there is another problem. So we have to address this fact in many ways in this context.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Tenuwan.
Having at the moment.
One final comment, Shamil.
Yes.
Media also has a very big response and very big role on this. Because when some incident happen in somewhere, rather than trying to attract the audience for that incident, if the media can give solutions and force the government, force the authorities to formulate solutions, to approach scientifically, I think media is the best place to do that.
Right. Thank you very much, gentleman and lady. Thank you very much, Dr. Tenuwan Wickramasinghe, a General Committee member of the GMOA. Dr. Tenuwan, time and time again, until we get out of this situation, we will talk about the fertilizer crisis, and there is a saying that the great people talk about the concepts, right,
and average people talk about the events,
right,
and small minds talk about the people.
I don't know what that meant, but I will tell you one thing. We as the media, you said the media has a role to play.
Yeah.
We will keep reminding the people what has happened in the past, so that they can reflect of the future and take decisions accordingly. And there comes the role of the GMOA as well, how they have played their part of their role.
Thank you very much.
Sri Lanka's history. Whether it's negative or positive, it's up to you. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. Take care and good night.